attack now. Can he hang on in the OVO Energy Tour of Britain? Lines up for the sprint. Can he steal this one? 1 kilometre to go now. Is he going to take the stage? Yes, he is.
Hello and welcome. We are in the heart of the Lake District as we approach the halfway point of this year's OVO Energy Tour of Britain. And today's stage promises to be the Queen's stage. Really difficult racing from Gateshead down here to Kendal with almost 3,000 metres of climbing awaiting the riders. It's going to be mint, but yesterday wasn't exactly a piece of cake.
It was a wet peloton that rolled out of Berwick-upon-Tweed for the first English stage of this year's OVO Energy Tour of Britain. As usual, there were fireworks from the off, and it looked like 8 riders had got away, only to then be pulled back. Then half a dozen did escape, including Harry Tanfield and Rory Townsend, who was looking to reclaim his red Iceberg Sprints jersey. Jacob Scott was also there once again and consolidated his position with 2 wins on the Skoda King of the Mountains climbs. After the first sprint at Seahouses, everything came to an abrupt halt, with half the riders on one side of a level crossing and the rest the other. After waiting for more than 12 minutes, the race was neutralised. Everyone was brought back together. The breakaway then set off again, and nearly 4 minutes later, the chase was on. The last sprint was ignored as the hunted went all in for the stage win. The hunters were now strung out in a huge line trying to reel them in. And with the kilometres ticking down, it was looking touch and go. The catch did finally come on the banks of the River Tyne, leaving only the steep climb of Grey Street to negotiate. But who out of the pre-race favourites would prevail?
Dylan Groenewegen has got the front. Groenewegen is riding away. Is he going to take this one? Van der Poel kicks to try and come back, but Dylan Groenewegen, you would say against the odds, Dylan Groenewegen takes the stage victory.
An incredibly strong effort from the Dutchman to claim his second stage win this year, with Matteo Trentin still in the OVO Energy green jersey, but only by 7 seconds from David Chimolai, with Mathieu van der Poel now up to 3rd place.
Joined once again here in Kendal by Janto Barker, former pro. And Janto, you've got to say, Dylan Groenewegen, the form sprinter in this year's race.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably one of the quickest men coming into this race, and he's proven that status by winning 2 stages.
Yeah, not sure he could get over the climbs, but he proved us wrong yesterday as he went up Grey Street in Newcastle. There was a bit of a kick there, but he managed it in fine form.
Well, I think it's slightly different when the finish line is in sight as opposed to a 5-minute climb 25 k's out. That one he did struggle with, but yeah, he carried his speed very well into that final climb yesterday, and he did pull off a very, very good win.
Different day today for the fast men. We expect to see them in the Gruppetto as they crawl into Kendal later on. Very much a day for the climbers.
The peloton heads towards the first Iceberg Sprint at Wickham and onto the first climb of the day at Snod's Edge. The riders then cross the North Pennines with the ascent of the Cat 1 Bollyhope Common. On a day of almost 3,000 metres of climbing, the final Skoda King of the Mountain points can be found on the Cat 3 ascent of Gorthrop. That's not the end of the climbing though, with a finish in Kendal up the 11% climb of Beast Banks. Gateshead Quay is the hub of the town and is dominated by the award-winning Millennium Bridge, the Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art and the Sage Music Centre. Just outside the town is the iconic Angel of the North, which is built to withstand winds of up to 100 miles per hour due to its exposed location. The market of Kendal in Cumbria is the southern entrance to the Lake District. Historically known for woolen goods, its most famous export is the Kendal mint cake, which was used by Edmund Hillary on the first successful attempt of Mount Everest back in 1953.
Janto, I called it the Queen's stage. It really is. Almost 3,000 metres of climbing right up to the end. In fact, we're standing on a road called Beast Banks. They're going to have to be in beast mode to make it up here to the finish line, which is just about 100 metres away. Who do you fancy today?
It's a difficult one. This is harder than yesterday. It's kind of quite similar, but a bit longer and a bit steeper for longer. So I do think Van der Poel's got to be favourite, second time lucky, but there will be other riders to definitely compete, and maybe Swifty's going to be a good one for today.
Quite often the foreign racers come here to prepare for the World Championships. This year in particular, with the World Champs being in Yorkshire later in the month, mean the Tour of Britain is excellent preparation, and today's stage especially.
Yeah, you kind of get a feel of the atmosphere, a feel of the road surface, a feel of the conditions. It is a bit overcast and cooler today, so probably will simulate very closely what World Champs Day will be like, back end of this month.
It is tough racing today. Let's hear from some of the men who are going to tackle it.
Today for sure is a proper GC day. Who's jumping off the GC today won't get back anymore. And today, let's say we're going to divide who can win to who cannot anymore.
How hectic have those finals been?
They've been really hectic actually. It's been a bit of a surprise. Like the first day, quite technical run-ins. Just adds an extra stress as well, with a bit of road furniture. I think you forget how congested the British roads are really until you actually race on it. Today's a really good stage. It's going to be hard. It's up and down. It's a tough little finish. So it all depends how the racing's going.
We have to try today. I think it's the hardest one, or one of the hardest, and we will try to make difference. But it's going to be hard.
It's brilliant. Every year it seems to the crowds get bigger. The support coming into Newcastle yesterday was brilliant. And I'm sure it'll be the same today. But yeah, we tried to put on a show. But like we say, we're looking after Matt. And he's looking good, feeling good, so this is a big one today.
Matteo Trentin has only got a 7-second advantage in the green jersey competition. Janto, do we think he'll still be in green at the end of the day?
I think he can hold it. He might have to make a decision in the stage whether he has to go with a move as opposed to let his team control it. That'll be the thing that will decide on, depending on how hard the race is being attacked.
Jumbo-Visma and Trentin's team of Mitchell and Scott have animated the race so far, certainly working the front of the peloton very hard. But we've seen Team Ineos have a little bit of a sniff. Sivakov got up the road the other day as they came into Kelso. Do we think Ineos are going to do something today?
I think they need to. And you look at how strong Dylan van Baarle was setting up the attack for Sivakov, who then went off the front and did 10Ks or so by himself. They have got the firepower to really do some damage, and it'll be exciting to see if they pull it out today.
It certainly will. It's going to be exciting days racing. So that's it from us. Let me hand you to your commentary team of Rob Hales and Marty McDonald.
Thank you, Matt. We are off. Rory Townsend, you can see there in that red Iceberg Sprints jersey. Matteo Trentin in green. Davide Cimolai wearing that light blue Setterville Points jersey, keeping that warm for Matteo Trentin, but they are level on points in that classification. Jacob Scott in that Skoda King of the Mountains jersey, 31 points he now has to Dries de Vont's 18, so on the rollout. Riders just getting ready, catch up with each other, ready for Rob, what we expect to be a very tough day in the saddle today.
Extremely difficult, 173.9k, but with the climbs that we've got, the standard fare with the 3 categorized climbs, but in between it is up and down, and then the finish here in Kendal, well, we walked it this morning. It's steep, it's grippy, it's a little bit of a wall. Anybody who has visions of the OVO Energy green jersey come Manchester on Saturday, they've got to be there or thereabouts today. Anybody who misses the boat today, that's it, they can say goodbye to it.
Nice shots of Newcastle upon Tyne. Great finish we had up Grey Street yesterday. Confirmation of your jersey leaders. Trentin leading in the overall and the points. All of our jersey wearers still keeping themselves towards the front. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Back soon.
Welcome back to highlights of this year's Queen stage of the Tour of Britain. With the first sprint coming so early in the stage, plus some 3,000 metres of climbing to come, the attacks, once the flag dropped, were not allowed to get away. On the first steep ramp, Dylan van Baarle of Team Ineos and Axel Domon of AG2R Le Mondial did sneak off the front and took the points at Wickham. The green jersey of Matteo Trentin stole the solitary bonus second on offer at the Iceberg Sprint for third. As we rejoin the action, the duo have reached the Skoda King of the Mountains climb of Snod's Edge. And former British champion Russ Downing has joined Rob and Marty in the commentary box. So it's over to the team.
Into the first King of the Mountains of the day, Eddie Dunbar latches on to the back of the breakaway group. That gives us 3 up the road and 2 members now of Team Ineos. This is our first categorised climb of the day, Snod's Edge, King of the Mountains, category 2, 4.3 kilometres in length is this climb. Average gradient of 4%, more importantly, maximum gradient of 14%. Guys, this just changes everything completely.
It does. Damon just looked over his shoulder and as if to say, where have you come from? Oh, two against 1. Okay, let's go.
We saw Eddie do, I mean, for me, the final stage Tour of Yorkshire this year was just, the amount of kilometres he spent on the front in the end of that race, you just thought, he's going to tire in a minute. He's going to tire, and he just didn't. Is he? Again, I'm such a big fan of him. I love the way he rides.
Yeah, I think he really helped Chris Lawless out there in Yorkshire. He was the guy where, Lawless followed Van Avermaet, and if Eddie Dunbar wouldn't have been there, Van Avermaet probably wouldn't have rode, but Eddie Dunbar did. So Lawless just, tapped out the rhythm, and then he ended up winning the GC, which was great. But this is just, he's just done such a good move here, and he's just come like a rocket out of the peloton.
Yeah, we were literally just talking about him, and there you can see the time gap. So 139.2, 203 is the gap. So where he went and how he went and when he went, we just seen him get on. But that's a big old gap to close on your own, isn't it?
It is, but it's a terrain that suits him, and we've been saying from the start, it's going to be on the whole a different set of riders, a different style and different sort of rider that we're seeing coming to the fore today. And Dunbar is he's all over this at the moment, as Van Baal just obviously warming up. Well, if he's not warm by now, then he's not going to get any heat in there.
Jack Bauer, that style all of his own, just knocking out that steady rhythm now on the front. Jacob Scott's moving up as well in the black jersey as the King of the Mountains. So remember, there's still points on offer. We've got 3 riders up there in the breakaway group. For the Swift Carbon Pro Cycling rider that's wearing that jersey, he's still got 4th place that he can battle it out for this one. So Jake Scott, again, we saw him earlier on in the week as well. He's got to be very vigilant. He's got to really go for these sprints as well, and not try and be too subtle about them if he can.
Yeah, I think he relaxed on one the other day, didn't he? And just got pipped on the line. But today he's going to be trying for the 4th place at the top. Mitchelton Scott probably will let him go, but you don't know if any of the other teams are going to try and go with him.
He's got a nice advantage, 31 points back to Dries de Bont on 18. But yeah, he's just got to make the most of the points that are on offer today.
I think maybe those 2 will be going for it amongst themselves, and they'll just clip off the front.
Up towards the summit now. Eddie Dunbar is on the front. Domon perhaps will fancy his chances of the King of the Mountains jersey. Looks like he's going to go for a sprint here. So the AG2R Le Mondial rider just moves up alongside Eddie Dunbar. No, the ride through in the 3. Looked like he was about to launch one there. Got a little bit squeezed on the inside. So Dunbar, Van Baal and Domon go over the top of there.
Yeah, just happy and content to keep momentum, keep that going. And here we can see, obviously, over the top, then got the descent. And this is the point where the chasing peloton, they're limited to what they can do. As it stands at the moment, the gap is actually going out. It was 2:22 not long ago. It's now up to 2:43.
So caution there, steep descent coming up for the riders. I'm sure we'll see the peloton get to that King of the Mountains point behind. Dylan Van Baal, Axel Domont and Eddie Dunbar pressing on here. This is one of these days, as say, just quote Trent, hitting 80 kilometres an hour now on this descent with Van Baal on the front.
And that's without pedalling, and that's the thing. Even for the fresher teams further back later on in the race, you get to a point like this, you can't bring any time back. You can only go so fast.
Now the sprint for the next place is 4th place is on offer. Dries de Bont takes that from Jacob Scott.
Eduardo Affini leads Mitchelton Scott over the top of that one. So Dries de Bont coming into this race on really good form there. That was Snod's Edge, the Category 2 King of the Mountains. Eddie Dunbar riding over the summit there. More importantly, the battle in 4th and 5th there between Dries de Bont and Jacob Scott. Into the second King of the Mountains point of the day, Bollyhope Common, 4.1 kilometers in length, the average gradient of 7.8%. So as we said, kicks up to 16.4. So this is a Category 1 climb. We saw over the first one of the day, though, Rob, that we didn't have any battle at the top. So the likes of Eddie Dunbar took the first maximum points. And this is where you kind of take that, almost, you start challenging for that jersey by stealth, in a way, just by keeping the pace high on the front.
Just by being up there. Totally, I think they're more committed, and rightly so, to the job in hand, which is trying to keep this group out as far as they can, as far forward, and keep that distance. 2:51, it's up, starting to touch up towards the 3-minute mark. But yeah, it's not about the intermediate mountains preem for any of these guys, certainly not at the moment. It's they've got their job to do, and look at that, how steep that is out the saddle around that bend. This is difficult terrain here, and well, this is where, if you're back in the peloton, languishing down towards the back, if you're already starting to struggle, then this is where you are really going to, well, it's just going to show.
This is such a British climb, isn't it, this one?
There's a hill, let's build a road straight up it.
Lasse Norman Hansen here. Let's have a look down the group. Does anyone fancy their chances of making a little move on this one? Everyone just glancing up the climb now as they hit those steeper slopes. And again, the inside of that corner is not where you want to be.
Nasty, it's the steepest section, and just a little bit of shouting there. I'm not sure, can't quite hear if that's the crowd just urging the riders on, or if it's some of the Mitchelton Scott riders just trying to ease down Lasse Norman Hansen on the front, because what you can't afford to do is go too hard on these climbs. You've got to deliver it evenly, but what you don't want to do is hurt the riders behind, because at the moment, Corrin and Circus, they've got Mitchelton Scott as essentially their teammates. They've got the same outlook for the end of today in terms of actually keeping this group at bay, or keeping them within striking distance. But we could see Hansen just zigzagging just a little bit, swaying over that steeper section of the road.
There's the summit, the barriers, the banners at the top. Domont out of the saddle. We saw him do this previously. It looked like he was going to have a real charge for the top, and in the end he didn't. Moves through towards the front, has a glance across there at Eddie Dunbar, a little bit of a chat as he goes through. And Domont and Dunbar, as they go towards the summit here, having a discussion about whether he can take the points at the top. Domont comes through and takes maximum points over the top of this one. Dunbar and Van Baal ride through back to the front of the peloton. Just seeing Swift Carbon Pro Cycling coming through, which is a good thing. Dries de Bont, though, goes down the left-hand side of the peloton. Jacob Scott was getting brought up towards the front by his teammates. Dries de Bont saw that as well. I was just about to say, it was good to see Swift Carbon starting to do some work for Jacob Scott, but this time Jacob Scott gets the better of Dries de Bont. This battle is great to see.
I'll reverse the losses from the previous climb.
Let's have a little look at the replay here. Dries de Bont sprinting out. Jacob Scott gets into the slipstream and it comes past. I think we've got a great battle for this King of the Mountains jersey. As the race goes on, we are over the top of our second categorized climb of the day. Many more to come. The gap just under 3 minutes from our three leaders. Bollyhope Common Category 1. Axel Domont takes 10. Dunbar, Van Baal. Then it was Jacob Scott out-sprinted Dries de Bont. He took 7 in that competition. Ed Laverick, the teammate of Jacob Scott, getting up there and taking 1 point in 10th. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Back soon.
Welcome back. The peloton was pretty happy with things on the road and let our 3 leaders take the sprint at Kirby Stephen. With his job done, Eddie Dunbar sat up and waited to be mopped up. The 2 original breakaway riders were on their own again and rolled on, and then 2 became 1 as Dylan van Baarle set off on a lone, and it has to be said, a fairly kamikaze attack. He rolled through the final sprint at Sedbergh, whilst behind, red jersey wearer Rory Townsend was pipped by double stage winner Dylan Groenewegen. As we approach the last climb at Ganthorpe, the big teams are massing on the front. So, over to Russ, Rob and Marty.
King of the Mountains start the final one of the day here. Gorth at 1.8 kilometres. Dylan van Baarle has a little glance across. You can see average gradient of 9.6%, maximum gradients of 15.8. The gap is right down. They have pulled him back. And perhaps for Van Baarle, we're looking at the likes of Sivakov or those riders now for Ineos to try and launch something across to Van Baarle and for him to give them a bit of a turn on this climb.
Here we go.
I'm going to go with Teish Benoot for the stage today. He's moving up towards the front here, so we're getting some movement from the group behind. This is the final categorized climb of the day. The gap has dropped back rapidly from our leader, Dylan van Baarle. That break with Axel Domont and Eddie Dunbar is back within striking distance.
I think you're going to have to be very near the front here. You can see it's steep, it's narrow, so there's not much room for error, really.
So Team Sunweb, lots of riders that could challenge today. Chad Hager, Chris Hamilton, those sort of riders could be up there, and it's just disintegrating now under the pressure of these attacks at the head of the race. So Mitchelton Scott have been trying to control this right up till this point. This is where we thought this stage could potentially really come alive here, and look at the gaps that are opening in the peloton.
Yeah, it's really started to explode now, and riders at the back, well, they'll be looking at just see the Sunweb rider going out the back as we get to the front of the race now. Is that Moscon having a dig? Looks like Gianni Moscon having a go. Sivakov just in the wheel. Van der Poel is there. Teish Benoot also there.
Matteo Trentin, is he starting to look a little bit trouble here? The green jersey just drifting back. You can see him at the bottom of your picture, just in front of Ben Swift. So Ineos topping the group here. They've swept up Van Baarle, so Moscon, Van der Poel, Benoot, Sivakov. That looks like Alex Camp that's also up there for Rewal Readiness. So in the group, Chris Hamilton is in there as well for Team Sunweb, it looks like. So Hamilton's there. Trentin just gets brought on here. So they move him up. So he just gets brought back onto the back of there. Looks like the style of Mikel Landa there as well. And that Movistar jersey is Landa potentially going to have a go. He just tries to find his way through there on the inside. Van der Poel, though, here we go. Again, the attack goes in. Gianni Moscon, Teish Benoot, Matt Holmes is up there for Madison Genesis. It's Andre Amador, that's the Movistar rider that's in there. Can they stretch enough of the peloton here? Is Van der Poel about to have a go? Moscon's on the front, keeping that tempo high. Matt Holmes doing a great ride in there for Madison Genesis. James Shaw is there. Let's have a look. The EF Education First rider just on the outside. Armand Grøndal Jansen is also there, but many riders hanging on to this group here. You can just see this slope's really starting to bite. Van der Poel looks comfortable in third wheel. Teish Benoot just adjusting his computer on the handlebars of the bike there. Sivakov is sat third wheel, has a little glance across. James Shaw for Swift Carbon Pro Cycling is right there. There's Matteo Trentin. The Israel Cycling Academy team jerseys just coming up as well. Ben Swift is also still in striking distance in this group. Again, on Moscon out of the saddle. Teish Benoot looks comfortable sat there in second wheel. We're waiting for the move. Simon Clark just moving up here for EF Education First. Teish Benoot now after that big turn. Benoot turns the pressure up on the front here. Clark rides up in the pink there of EF Education First. Teish Benoot, Ben Herman's just in there in the light blue and white colours of the Israel Cycling Academy. Is anyone going to launch a big move here? Sivakov rides back up there, wearing the There goes Ben Hermans on the outside. Hermans finds his way through. James Shaw for Swift Carbon Pro Cycling. Hermans manoeuvres his way through towards the front. He found himself on the grass. Van der Poel now latches onto the wheel of James Shaw. Hermans, as we've said, in the light blue and white colours of the Israel Cycling Academy. But Benoot looked like, as we said, the coiled spring now. Tej Benoot was winding up that attack, and it's Ben Hermans that reacts. It's the Lotto Soudal rider. Takes one glance back over the shoulder as Ben Hermans crosses the gap. Sivakov, Van der Poel all go with him. Hermans now makes the move. Clark tries to get on for EF Education first. Hermans comes through. He takes maximum points over the top of the climb for the Israel Cycling Academy team, but it's all about trying to drag this group clear now. This is all about general classification, and Trentin is still very much to the front of this group.
Yep, Trentin doing an absolutely superb job there. Just limiting any of his losses, and he's in on the coattails. He's got two teammates not too far behind him, so that will be of help. And it's taken till that manoeuvre there, that move by Tej Benoot to really put the hammer down, to stretch things out. James Shaw just setting it up for him. The former Lotto Soudal rider, the British rider, put himself back in the shop window for everybody else to see. And really, look at that. It's absolutely exploded, the peloton now.
Confirmation of Gorthorpe, Category 3, King of the Mountains. Hermans that went over the top from Benoot, Sivakov and Van der Poel. Now let's have a look at this group. So looking around here, so it's James Shaw on the front that's putting the hammer down for Swift Carbon. Ben Hermans, this is a very select group that's going clear. There's the gap back to the next chasers on the road. The way we're rocking and rolling across the Yorkshire Dales National Park here. This move, can this group behind drag this one back, or can this select leading group just go clear? We're over the top of the final categorised climb of the day. We're heading towards Kendal. Van der Poel makes his move. So Mathieu Van der Poel for Corendon Circus. Moscon manages that one.
They need to put Trentin under pressure if they can. The green jersey, they've got to try and put the cosh on him if they can. Try and soften him up.
Yeah, he's sitting quite far back in this group, but he's got other riders that are helping him stay in the game, really.
Grøndal Jansen, the next man to make his move. Armin Grøndal Jansen here for Jumbo Visma, and again the counter comes from the group behind. Edmondson is here, just managing this group for Matteo Trentin. Ben Swift just crossing that gap as well behind. Again, it's Alex Edmondson. He's doing a great job just managing this here at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the second place best GC rider for Michelin Scott, and he's doing a great job.
He's indeed. Is Sivakov now going to make this big move now? Pavel Sivakov comes from about halfway down the group, hits the front at full speed. Does Pavel Sivakov, gives you a great example through 25 kilometers to go. The Ineos rider, the Russian, gives you a great example there of where to attack down through the group. So the Armin Grøndal Jansen.
You could actually see people panicking there when he went. They were just, we need to go with this. We need to go, and look how strung out it is now.
Yep, it's really pulling. Niels Pollitt is there for Katusha, and Amador again for Movistar. Clark, by the looks of it, for EF Education.
It's a great show there of where you attack from as Simon Clark now makes his move. Pavel Sivakov about halfway down the group. That's by the time you get to the front, you're at warp speed.
Matteo Trentin, second place.
This is what Trentin's got to do in this situation, though, isn't he? He's got Edmondson in there. Edmondson's going to have only so much riding in, but as they always say, excuse the cliche, best form of defence is attack.
He's definitely doing that now, yeah. So he was a little bit out of position just before the last attack, but he's in good position now.
I think it shows the legs that he's got, doesn't it? The form that he's got and the confidence to be able to do that, move himself up.
Indeed, so Niels Pollitt, you can see there, just gets onto the back of the group of this little forward part of the group. Is that Mikael Lander that's in there as well? Or is it still Amador? Apologies. So Just Mathieu van der Poel's a little bit further down the group. Sivakov just keeping on the pressure here. Just the little attacks going in. So van der Poel's got some teammates that are in this group.
I think there's only 14 or 15 riders in this group at the moment.
So we're heading towards 20 kilometres to go. Russ Downing's got some other bits and pieces to do. We'll thank Russ for his input today. We'll catch up with him again tomorrow, and we'll see if your pick Mathieu van der Poel wins the stage.
Yeah, he's looking good, so hopefully I can pick a winner today. Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see Russ tomorrow. And so again, a little bit of pressure goes out of the group. The Movistar rider, Andre Amador, just makes another attack. Niels Pollitt straight on him. AG2R, Le Mondial are up there trying to keep into the action here. Charel gets up there. Christian, Hamilton, and then Turnison. Van der Poel just gets on as well. We've got one rider in there as well for Wanty Group, Gobert.
Van der Poel again. He's got some legs on him at the moment. So active. He doesn't mind exposing himself, does he? Stretching everybody else out behind him.
So the two cyclocross riders, Mathieu van der Poel, Mike Turnison, and then Matteo Trentin gets onto the back, and you just see the reaction coming from the group behind. 1:30 is the gap being shown from the green jersey group back to the next group on the road, and a very select group, just the attacks going in thick and fast over the top here of Kirkby Lonsdale, so the historic market town in the heart of the Loon Valley. We're going to take a short break. Back soon.
Stage 4 of the OVO Tour of Britain. Before we go into the final kilometre, I just want to mention the very hard terrain the riders have all covered to get here. But let's have a look at this last K, as they're going to have to cover it now. So here we're coming up Kendal High Street, which is the last little drag before the steep kick to the line. This isn't going to be a big obstacle for the riders after what they've covered, but positioning, if there is more than two riders, will be important at this stage. It is quite possible, however, that this stage is going to be won by a solo breakaway, and they will get to take all of these corners on their own line. 500 meters to go. There is a right-hand turn, quite narrow, quite tight. As we get ready, start this kick. Around the left-hander here. This is where the winner's going to need to put down all the power as we hit 300 meters to go. Kicks up. You need to make the real effort. If there's anyone with you, push, push, push. Get that gap and then squeeze over the top. This is really hard. Coming up to 150 meters to go. Starts to ease off. I expect the gaps to be made by here, and then really look over the shoulder, make sure there's no one there, and soak up the atmosphere. Strongest rider is going to win today. I'm not expecting the winner to need to lunge for it. That's hard.
And the breakaway group go through there. Galopin, Shaw, and Hermans, the chasers behind. Matt Holmes and Gianni Moscon are the riders trying to cross. Teish Benoot being marked here by Mikkel Charel. They don't want to let Moscon ride clear. And right on the wheel there, Pavel Sivakov. Trentin gets back in there as well. Tom van Asbroek, 5 kilometers to go now for the peloton. Mikhail Golash right on the wheel. The attacks now out of this group. They realise it's not going to be a concerted chase into the bottom of that climb. They're going to have to attack each other to try and get this trio back. But it's looking like advantage breakaway for the three riders. James Shaw, great to see him on such good form and showing himself at the front of this stage today.
9 or 10 seconds has been taken out of the advantage here for these three riders with those attacks. And look, it's the green jersey of Matteo Trentin. What form has he got? He doesn't have teammates with him anymore. They're stuck on the back of this group, but he's riding with such confidence at the moment.
They are indeed. Hermans attacking this descent. Through 4 kilometers to go. It's the Israel Cycling Academy team rider that's on the front. Tony Galopin, the Frenchman from AG2R Le Mondial on the back. It could be a dream day for the British rider. James Shaw from Swift Carbon Pro Cycling. Going into the stage, Shaw 29th at 25 seconds in the general classification. He was level with Hermans in that one. As we said, there's a bit of a gap back to Tony Galopin in the GC. He's at 45, so 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds on the line. Matteo Trentin is fighting to try and keep hold of this green jersey as the leader of the OVO Energy Tour of Britain. The Ineos riders descend back on to Matteo Trentin, but this is all he can do now, Trentin, to try and defend this one. He's just trying to encourage a little bit of attacks coming over the top to just keep that momentum.
Well, he can afford to defend to a certain extent when you look at the riders up front. 25 seconds is the biggest advantage for them, but let's not forget 10-second time bonus on the line as well. So at the moment he's kind of nullified everything, but going on the offensive is Matteo Trentin, riding with such confidence.
He is indeed. What a race Swift Carbon Pro Cycling are having. They've got Jacob Scott in the King of the Mountains jersey. James Shaw chasing down a stage victory. Tom Van Asbroek is managing the moves here for Ben Hermans. Dimension data coming up as well. Viss and Cummings are up towards the front. We're not far away now from the finish. This climb, 600 meters of gradient that they have, 11% average, 16% maximum. Now the Mitchelton Scott team wrestle their way back through to the front to try and pull this back. 2 kilometers to go. Shaw on the front, burying himself to try and keep this group clear. Can they stay off the front? Just 12 seconds is the advantage. That could disappear in the blink of an eye if this group start to charge from behind on this climb. Swift is up there for Team Ineos. Van Asbroek is here just in case this group comes back. You can see him just fiddling with his shoes, tightening them up. James Shaw now is just clipping off the front of this group. He will know this finish, will James Shaw, through the town now. They go through the 1 kilometer to go, and then they will swing up the climb of Beast Banks with 600 meters remaining.
Well, nice fast run in, and then the sharp turn up Beast Banks. As you say, Shaw knows it, and well, that can be of great help, especially if you've got the legs, which he seems to have at the moment. 11 seconds, it's gradually coming down, and that lead out back in the peloton from Mitchelton Scott doing its job.
Galopin just missing a turn now through the Flamme Rouge with 1 kilometer to go. They swing off the front. There can be no messing around now out of this leading group. James Shaw, Ben Hermans is cooked, I think, from this one. He drops to the back. Galopin has to make the effort. James Shaw, you saw him just venting his frustration over these two riders. They're going to leave the Brit now on the front, but as we said, this gap can just disappear. It's not huge. James Shaw on the front. Galopin, though, has got to do the work, or this group, the charge from behind, will just eat into that slender advantage of this one. They've got to keep racing all the way to the top of this climb. Galopin has a look back over the shoulder. It's a steep climb. Ben Hermans moves up onto the wheel of Tony Galopin. Shaw's done the right thing, just manoeuvring them through to the front. But they've got to make this effort as they swing right now. Maybe expect James Shaw to try and take a flyer from the back of this group if they start to look around. Galopin looks back. They cannot mess around here at all, or that group will be right on them. Galopin, Hermans and Shaw, the helicopter now just pans out. And here comes the chase behind. Turnison, Clark is there. Van Asbroek, Trent Trentin, Swift, there, here comes Van der Poel. Mathieu Van der Poel, the gap is closed. Mathieu Van der Poel now makes his move. Can anyone answer the Coronan Circus rider? Mathieu Van der Poel sprinting clear. Mathieu Van der Poel is Trentin, shifts his hands up onto the brake levers. This is a perfect finish. Everything now, we expected him to make this move, and he's gonna deliver. Mathieu Van der Poel rides to the top of the climb here in Kendal. Van der Poel takes the stage. Jasper de Boist in second. Clark takes third. Swift, Grandal, Janssen, Van Asbrook are all up there. It looked like Vliegen that was well in position as well. Coming into that bottom of that climb there, Rob, they could not look around. They were totally cooked, and Van der Poel makes them pay.
What an incredible ride, and look what that's taken out of him. Picked his moment, and well, it all fell into his lap, didn't it?
What a finish by Mathieu Van der Poel to take the win ahead of Jasper de Boist and Simon Clark. The Dutchman taking the podium in Kendal after the amazing sprint. He also takes over at the top in the general classification by a single second from Matteo Trentin of Mitchelton Scott. The winner of the Amstel Gold Race becoming the third wearer of the OVO Energy green jersey. The previous wearer now just in the blue Cetaphil points jersey.
20 to go, we decided to take it and try to ride a tempo to the finish. The three guys swap away, but they controlled it once again, and we got them just on the last kick to the line. I think Van der Poel was just on another planet today.
There's no change in the other classifications, with Rory Townsend still in red and Jacob Scott still in the Skoda King of the Mountains jersey. And there was no surprise that Dylan van Baal took the day's Combativity Award.
Really pleased to say Janto and I have been joined by the man of the moment, Mathieu Van der Poel, here in Kendal. Was that always the plan, Mathieu, to wait till the last minute and launch an explosive attack up Beast Banks, beast mode, if you like?
Yeah, it was quite a difficult stage today. The breakaway was also quite strong, and yeah, there were a lot of attacks. I think 25k before the finish line, but then yeah, I knew I had to wait until the sprint finish here, but it was more difficult than I expected, so it was really hard, and I launched my sprint from quite far because I didn't want to be bumped in as I was yesterday. So I'm pretty happy to take the win.
Cycling fans all over the world, especially here in Britain, are well aware of how deep you can go after your win at Amstel Gold earlier in the year. Is it difficult now not to ride like that? You have to be explosive, you have to go deep, you have to ride everyone off your wheel.
Yeah, of course, Amstel is something people always reminds them of me, so that's pretty cool actually. And yeah, I like to race. It's kind of my thing to start attacking from far away, but it's not always possible, and I'm smart enough to know when it's possible and when not. And like today, I knew that I had to wait for a sprint.
Was GC always part of a plan coming here? And when was the last time you rode your TT bike?
No, it wasn't really the plan for the GC. We decided with the team to try and win a stage here. GC was a little bit too early. I also felt at the first stage that I wasn't really in the shape I wanted to be. But yeah, now I'm getting better every day, I think, and I've rode my TT bike I think 2 or 3 times the last few weeks, but therefore it's been yeah, a couple of years ago actually, and I can't even remember the last time I did a TT more than 5k, so it's going to be quite challenging for me.
Matt, you say that because you'll be pleased to hear that tomorrow's stage in the Wirral is a lot easier.
Starting in Birkenhead Park, the riders head south towards Cheshire and the historic walled city of Chester. There are 77 kilometres of racing before the first chance of Skoda King of the Mountains points on the Cat 2 Kelsall Hill. The teams then head back to the Wirral and the first iceberg sprint of the day at Heswall. That's soon followed by another dash on the coast at Hoylake and the first climb up Flaybrick Hill. There's then a loop around the very top of the Wirral Peninsula ahead of the finishing sprint back in Birkenhead Park.
Mathieu, Janto and I have talked on the TV coverage about your cycling pedigree. Your dad, Adri, a great racer. Your grandfather, Raymond Poulidor, as well, very famous. Are you now better?
I don't know. It's difficult to compare. It's it's different ages, and yeah, I try to do my best. For me, I try to make a name for myself, and I think it's working out pretty well so far.
I think that's a yes, don't you? What a diplomat, Mattia. Great to see you. Janto, thanks to you very much indeed. Right, we'll be back with live coverage of Stage 5 of this year's OVO Energy Tour of Britain on ITV4 tomorrow. Do join us then for that if you can. Bye-bye for now.